The top stories tonight in Y News. Protests erupt across the United States of America as the presidential election results remain uncertain.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources sends a team to Ginobatan, Albay to investigate the lahar flow incident that killed some residents.
More senators back the realigning of anti-insurgency funds to Typhoon Rolly's victims. The Philippine National Police mulls transferring the Integrity Monitoring and Enforcement Group, or IMEG, to the Internal Affairs Service.
4 out of 5 Filipinos say their quality of life worsened in the past year based on the recent survey of the social weather stations.
And severe tropical storm Shawnee slightly intensifies as it moves closer towards Luzon Strait. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Thursday, November 5, 2020. I am Jorlin Delgado.
We deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the globe. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide with the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news, protesters have taken to the streets of America as results of the U.S. presidential election remain uncertain. Our correspondent in Chicago, USA, Chris De Leon, will tell us why live. Chris, who are these protesters and what do they want?
Arlene, these are protesters who are pro and anti-Trump supporters who demand counting to be allowed to continue while the others have called for counting to stop. Marchers in New York returned in Washington Square Park, setting fires and engaging in other destructive behavior after a series of lawsuits in Michigan and Pennsylvania was filed by the Trump campaign to hold the vote count in those states. In Portland, Oregon, local authorities declared a riot after groups of demonstrators destroyed property in the downtown section of the city, which the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office described as widespread violence. The National Guard were deployed to disperse the rioters. About 75 vote challengers toting signs, waving flags, and wearing Trump shirts gathered for a brief protest outside the Clark County Election Center in Nevada, where poll workers are certifying 2020 general election ballots. They chanted, "Stop the steal," and one man wearing an American flag mask told cameras, "It's time for the purge." Despite the allegations, there is no report and evidence of irregularities in vote counting in the county. At least 100 protesters gathered at both the Arizona Capitol and Maricopa County Tabulation and Election Center. The protesters were angry that Joe Biden led President Donald Trump in the votes counted in Arizona. So far, an alleged voting issues contributed to his lead. Again, there is no evidence of that. Here in Chicago and Philadelphia, hundreds gathered last night demanding that every vote be counted. Harlina's vote counting is left to a handful of battleground states, and results draws near. State and city officials in the country prepare for a possible widespread unrest in the country, especially that both camps are also preparing for a long legal battle for the next occupancy of the White House. Meanwhile, according to the U.S. Associated Press, as of 5 a.m. Central Time or 7 p.m. in the Philippines, Biden is leading with 264 electoral votes and Donald Trump has 214 electoral votes.
All right, thank you so much. Chris De Leon reporting live from Chicago, USA. Meanwhile, more senators have expressed support to realign the proposed 19 billion peso anti-insurgency funds next year for the victims of Super Typhoon Rolly. During the Senate hearing on the red tagging issue, Senator Risa Hontiveros called for the realignment of 16 billion pesos allocation for the Barangay Development Program of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, for the rehabilitation of areas hardly hit by the typhoon.
I will call for a portion of it to be reallocated to typhoon rehabilitation. I've already called for 8 billion to be reallocated to health. Mag-reallocate din po tayo para sa kababayan nating mga nasa lanta.
Under the Barangay Development Program, 20 million pesos will be given to 822 barangays that have been cleared from the influence of New People's Army, which will be used to fund various projects, including construction of farm-to-market roads, school buildings, and water systems, among others. Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon supports the proposal, saying that the 19 billion peso anti-insurgency budget should go directly to the victims of the recent typhoons instead of using it to fund what he calls soft projects that are prone to corruption. According to Drilon, the move will also erase the suspicion that the funds will be used for the 2022 elections. Senator Francis Pangilinan also backed the call to realign the task force budget to aid typhoon victims. However, the palace sees no need to realign the budget.
Yung LCAP na pondo po ay pupunta dun sa area na merong insurgency problem. Dahil alam naman natin na kinakailangan magkaroon ng pag-unlad para mawala na yung problema pagdating sa insurgency. At itong mga nasalanta ng bagyo po, they will be beneficiaries of the LCAP funds. At maraking pondo po ay pupunta po dito sa Bicolandia at Catanduanes, kung saan aktibo naman po talaga ang mga insurgents.
National Security Advisor Hermogenes Esperon said there are 49 barangays in Bicol region that will benefit from the program. According to Esperon, he respects the opinion of the senators, but he remains firm that the budget of the task force should not be realigned. He added he already sent a letter to the senators to explain the importance of the funds to NTF-LCAC.
Diyan sa mga barangay na yan, nandyan ang mga guerrilla bases ng NPA. Paano mo tatanggalin yan? Kung na-clear mo na, pagkatapos iiwanan mo lang? For so long a time, wala silang development. Ngayon na nagkaroon sila ng pagkakataon na mabigyan, tatanggalin mo pa? Eh kung ang gusto nila, matuloy-tuloy pa rin itong pananalasa ng isang bagyong mas malakas pa itong CPP-NP. Eh di sige, tanggalin na lang yung pondong yan. Pero sinabi na namin yan sa mga barangay kapitan. Inaasahan na nila yan dahil katulong namin sila sa pagpuksa, pagtanggal sa mga NPA dyan.
Senate President Vicente Soto III said they will have to look into the proposal. Earlier, Senate Finance Committee Chair Senator Shawnee said they are now studying the possibility of supplementing the calamity funds for 2021. The Senate is set to begin its plenary deliberations on the 2021 General Appropriations Bill next week.
Meanwhile, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, has deployed a team to investigate the Lahar flow incident that killed some residents in Ginobatan, Albay. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
Department of Environment and Natural Resources Secretary Roy Simatu ordered the suspension of quarrying operations around Mayon volcano as it is conducting an investigation into the Lahar flow that hit a community in Ginobatan, Albay. President Rodrigo Duterte ordered the DENR and other concerned agencies to launch an investigation into the matter. Many residents were blaming the quarrying for the incident. DENR Undersecretary Jonas Leones said around 100 quarry operators are now under investigation. Most of them secured their permit from the local government unit. PBOX earlier said that Lahar searches lower ways if rivers are already shallow.
Kasi ang nangyari doon kasi medyo because of the heavy rain, parang naging shallow yung river beds doon. So nagkaroon ngayon ng overflowing, nag-flooding doon, at saka yung mga buhangin masyadong malakas. Kasi maraming naka-stack doon sa sa periphery ng bulkan. Nung umulan talaga nagbagsakan yung mga buhangin, mga quarry material.
Administrative charges may be filed against an operator if proven negligence or committed violations. Affected residents may also claim for damages that caused them.
kung may napinsalang individual, on the basis of our findings, pwede na magamit yun para mag-claim sila ng danyos or magkaroon ng criminal case sila against sa kung sino man yung nakagawa ng pinsala.
The DNR targets to complete the investigation in 15 days. According to Albay Governor Albi Chara, they will cooperate with the order of Duterte but appealed that the investigation should be finished first before suspending the operations, as the materials from the quarrying operations will be needed for the rehabilitation of damaged houses and establishments in the province. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar is looking to augment their team that are conducting clearing operations in Catanduanes province. Meanwhile, the Agriculture Department provides over 60 million pesos worth of aid to typhoon-affected farmers and fishermen in Bicol region. Asher Cadapan Jr. explains why live. Yes, Asher, good evening.
Well, good evening. The Department of Public Works and Highways has been conducting massive clearing operations, particularly in areas in Bicol region hardly hit by Super Typhoon Rolly. As of 6 a.m. today, some vital roads in the island province of Catanduanes are still unpassable due to obstructions from fallen debris or fallen tree, debris, and landslide. DPWH Secretary Mark Villar said there are 3 national road areas and a few intermittent sections of the Catanduanes Circumferential Road that still cannot be crossed by motorists. Villar said they plan to add more personnel in Catanduanes to expedite the clearing operations in vital areas. Villar, however, confirms all national roads in Albay and Camarines Sur are now passable to motorists. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture continues to provide aid to affected farmers and fishermen in Bicol region. A total of 680 million pesos worth of various aids, which include seeds of hybrid rice, corn and assorted vegetables, urea fertilizer, farm implements and fishing gear and paraphernalia. Affected farmers and fishermen may also file a 25,000 peso emergency and rehabilitation loan ranging from 10,000 to 15,000 pesos for their farm or equipment damaged by Super Typhoon Rolly. Will?
Yes, Asher. How much is the agricultural damage in Bicol region and what province was mostly affected?
Well, the Department of Agriculture's initial estimate of the agri-fishery damage in Bicol amounts to 2.2 billion pesos. 885 million pesos of which was accounted from the province of Albay, with 140 million pesos worth of damage in irrigation system, while 66 million pesos was from fisheries. Will?
Yes, thank you very much. Asher Cadapan Jr. reporting live.
The Philippine National Police is eyeing the transfer of Integrity Monitoring and Enforcement Group, or IMEG, to the Internal Affairs Service. But the PNP IMEG admits that they are still studying its pros and cons. Lea Ilagan tells us why.
To intensify the anti-corruption drive in the police organization, PNP Chief Police General Camilo Cascolan is planning to place the Integrity Monitoring and Enforcement Group under the Internal Affairs Service. Cascolan said, being together, they can have a full power and immediately arrest and file cases against errant cops.
Yung Integrity Monitoring Enforcement Group, ito ay pinag-aralan namin maging operational control by IAS. Operational control, bakit? Kasi ang IAS, we are leading IAS already to a civilian entity. That sabi nga natin, hopefully soon in the future, it will be separate from the PNP para walang problema.
IMEG, which used to be the Counterintelligence Task Force, is tasked to gather information against erring cops. The IAS, on the other hand, has the power to conduct motu proprio investigation, investigate, file cases, and recommend punishments to errant cops to the chief PNP and top-level police commanders. PNP IMEG Director Police Brigadier General Benjamin Acorda meanwhile said they are still conducting a research and consolidating all output to be presented to IAS Inspector General Attorney Alfigar Triambulo before giving it to the Chief PNP. Acorda adds they are also studying on the advantage and disadvantages of the possible merge of two units. Based on PNP data, 16,216 errant cops were penalized from July 2016 until October 2020. 4,681 had been dismissed from the service. 870 were demoted and 851 had been suspended. Among those penalized are 518 PNP personnel, including the 14 commissioned officer who were involved in illegal drugs. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Bureau of Immigration, or BI, said it will implement a one-strike policy against its airing personnel as part of its efforts to fight corruption. Under the one-strike policy, airing personnel who are the subject of complaints and investigation will be relieved from their posts immediately, the BI said. The measure comes after several immigration officials were subjected to investigation over their alleged involvement in the Pastillas bribery scheme, which allegedly takes advantage of Chinese nationals who wish to be escorted to dodge the immigration screening process for a fee. Immigration Commissioner Jaime Morente said he had ordered the BI's newly reconstituted Board of Discipline to carefully assess complaints and reports against erring personnel and to immediately recommend to the Department of Justice the filing of administrative cases if they find merit. The BI said that since 2016, 131 personnel have been suspended, dismissed, and dropped from the rolls for various offenses. Morente has also urged the public to report any illegal activities to the BI's hotline or via its Facebook page.
The country's headline inflation accelerated to 2.5% in October this year. Last month's inflation rate was seen the fastest in the past 3 months. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
The price of pork in Metro Manila has reached 262 pesos last October 2020 as compared to 202 pesos last October 2019. In areas outside of the National Capital Region, the price of pork has reached 208 pesos, 22 pesos higher than its price last year. Even the price of fish, particularly the round scad or galunggong and anchovies locally known as dilis, increased. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the fast increase of prices of food, particularly that of pork and fish, is the main contributor for the acceleration of the inflation for October and not due to high demand from consumers. As proof, Stephen Kua, president of Philippine Amalgamated Supermarkets Association, says sales of supermarkets has decreased by 5 to 20% as compared to the same period last year.
Karamihan ng mamimili, wala nang mahugutan. Sagad na sa utang, walang regular stream of income. Yung iba nawalan ng trabaho, yung iba nabawasan ng sweldo, yung iba nabawasan ng araw ng pasok. So, nabawasan ng income, no? So, nagtitipid, belt-tightening lahat.
While there is a movement on prices of meat and fish, Kua said they have not recorded any increase in canned goods in supermarkets. Inflation is the continuing increase of the prices of goods and services. Last October 2020, the country's inflation rate has accelerated to 2.5% as compared to 2.3% last September.
Ang source talaga ng presyo ng pagtaas ay basically Luzon, in particular yung mga provinces that are near the National Capital Region.
The increase of prices in restaurants and miscellaneous services, particularly that of barbershops, with a 7.6 inflation this October, has also contributed to the inflation. Also, the increase in tuition fees for private schools has somehow added to the overall inflation of the country. In transportation, tricycle fare has recorded a 45.8% inflation, while jeepney fare has an inflation of 6.4% and bus fare with 4.1%. Despite the 2.5% acceleration in the country's inflation rate for the month of October, it is still within the forecast of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which is 1.9% to 2.7% for the month of October. This is due to higher electricity rates and food prices caused by the recent typhoons that disrupted production and harvests. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
4 out of 5 adult Filipinos say their quality of life has worsened in the past year, making it one of the worst trends in history based on the recent survey of the social weather stations. Rosalie Cos explains why.
82% of adult Filipinos said their life has worsened in the last 12 months or they are termed as losers, while 11% say their life remained unchanged and the other 6% or the gainers believe it got better. This is based from the recent National Mobile Phone Survey of the Social Weather Stations or SWS conducted from September 17 to 20, 2020. The result net gainer score in September 2020 is negative 76%, considered catastrophic by the polling firm. The September 2020 score joins the worst trends in survey history of SWS, and the worsening of life quality is experienced in all areas of the country. The palace said it is saddened by the outcome of the survey, which is brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque expects the quality of life of Filipinos will improve as soon as COVID-19 vaccine becomes available.
Tingin ko naman po, from now on, bubuti na po ang buhay natin. Palabas na po ang bakuna at natututo na rin tayong mabuhay bagamat nandyan ang COVID-19.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Vaccine SAR Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. believes that under a best-case scenario, the COVID-19 vaccine may be available in the country in May 2021. With this, Galvez also plans to tap the security forces for the delivery of vaccines. Joan Nano tells us why.
Newly appointed Vaccine SAR Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. has met the official from the Department of Health to discuss efforts on COVID-19 vaccination program. He also said that they are in close coordination with the vaccine expert panel, logistics and procurement experts, as well as organizing diplomatic arrangement for the proper and timely delivery of COVID-19 vaccines. Secretary Galvez says that once clinical trials are done in the first quarter next year, vaccination may begin on May 2021.
Just in case na nagkaroon na po tayo ng mass production, ay pwede po tayo at the mid of 2021. But ano po natin to be realistically, kailangan po talaga na tumingin po tayo na worst case scenario na before the end of 2021 ang magiging realistically considering the constraint of the different supply chain na ano po natin na talagang worldwide po ang demand ng vaccine.
Currently, the Vaccine SAR is awaiting on President Duterte's approval on National Vaccine Roadmap, which constitute the brand and effectivity of the vaccine that the government will procure, as well as the logistics, deliveries, and storage of vaccines. Galvez adds that they are also in the process of preparing for cold storages for the vaccines. The government is initially targeting to procure around 24 million COVID-19 vaccine to be given among frontliners, indigents, and vulnerable sector.
Itong sa vaccination, we will make it very accessible to the public, particularly po dun sa ating most vulnerable people at saka yung mga indigents. The President already gave us the instruction na uunahin po talaga ang ating mga poor communities at saka mga vulnerable sector.
Meanwhile, Secretary Galvez also said that they will be tapping military and police forces to prevent the possible politicizing and corruption that may hinder the delivery of the vaccine among our people.
Para po ang sa directive ng ating mahal na presidente na hindi ma-politicalize, we will involve the services of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, DSWD, and also the PNP and other service uniformed men para magkaroon po na tayo ng interagency task force. Meron po tayong existing regional task force at saka provincial task force. Interagency po ito at saka hindi po ito highly politicized.
Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Researchers from the University of the Philippines see a significant decline in the average new daily coronavirus disease 2019 cases in the country. But the group also warns of a possible increase of infections as the holidays near. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
An average of 500 daily cases are just recorded now in the National Capital Region, compared to more than 800 average of daily cases last August, according to the University of the Philippines OCTA Research Group. Even the positivity rate or transmission in NCR showed a decline. This in spite of the backlogs due to halted operations of the Philippine Red Cross and disruption in laboratory operations due to Typhoon Rolly.
Positivity rate is now 6%. Actually, it's almost touching 5%, which is the target. So that means we're having enough testing. Yun nga. And in Metro Manila, the hospitals are also down. Occupancy is down, which means hindi na masyadong puno yung hospitals, and we're getting relief for our doctors.
There is also a decline of average daily cases in the Philippines at about 1,800 compared to more than 2,000 cases last August. Yesterday, new COVID-19 cases are below 1,000, and it could still decline to 300 a day if the public will continuously be responsible in observing minimum health standards. But the UP OCTA Group also warned that the country may have an increase of COVID-19 cases as holidays near. This, according to Dr. David, because of the mobility of the public, attending gatherings and shopping.
We're going to be expecting some upticks December because of the holiday. You know, no matter how hard we try, we can't avoid that there might be an uptick due to the increased mobility and yung people gathering. So we just hope that this uptick will be very manageable.
UP OCTA Research Team and the Department of Health reminds the public to still be responsible and vigilant, although there are already easing of restrictions in some areas in the country.
A surge can happen anytime if we're not careful, and that happened in Benguet. So right now, not only in Baguio City, but it's happening in other places in Benguet. It's also happening in Quezon. And Davao City is having an increase in cases.
According to the DOH, higher risks of COVID-19 transmission can happen in crowded markets, bazaars, and shopping malls. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Department of Health reported additional 1,594 cases, bringing the national tally to 389,725. The total number of COVID-19 survivors rose to 349,543, with the recovery of 468 patients. The death toll, however, rose to 7,409 as 42 more patients succumbed to the severe respiratory disease. The recoveries and deaths left the country with 32,773 active cases, of which 83% are mild, 10.1% asymptomatic, 4.4% severe, and 2.5% critical. The city of Manila recorded the highest number of new infections today with 253, followed by Cavite, Davao City, Rizal, and Quezon City.
The health department reiterates that weather conditions do not accelerate the transmission nor combat COVID-19 in the environment. Aiko Miguel explains why.
The Department of Health reaffirms that COVID-19 can only be transmitted through the exchange of bodily fluids. The agency made a statement to allay the fears of some that COVID-19 can be transmitted faster when it's cold and there are strong winds. Currently, according to experts, there is no evidence that proves that weather conditions or climate can affect the transmission of COVID-19.
Hindi siya airborne na kapag nandyan yung malakas na hangin dahil bigay ng bagyo, ay magkakaroon ng increased transmission. Although up to now, wala pa pong ebidensya na makapagsasabi that based on evidence, the weather affects the transmission of the virus. Like, for example, kung mainit, namamatay ba yung virus? Kung malamig, mas lalo ba siyang nagpo-propagate?
The DOH also said that people should not panic if they got cough and colds, which are symptoms of COVID-19. It is prevalent because flu season has begun in the country and the weather is getting colder. Catching common colds does not mean that a person is more susceptible to COVID-19.
Kung sakaling merong isa sa household natin na may infeksyon. Kaya nga po ang patuloy naming paalala, yung minimum health standards natin. Hindi porket nasa bahay tayo, hindi na tayo mag-mask, hindi na rin tayo mag-physical distance. Like for example, you have asthma, no? Kapag ka mga changes in weather, itong mga taong may asthma, madali sila magkaroon ng mga atake. Maaring ganyan. So mas vulnerable sila, mas dapat binabantayan.
The DOH also reiterated that it is not necessary for persons with cough and colds to take a COVID-19 test. Based on the COVID-19 testing guidelines in the country, only those who have symptoms and were exposed to COVID-19 positives are prioritized to undergo COVID-19 testing.
Pag COVID-19, hindi lang simptomas ang tinitignan natin. Kailangan natin isipin at tignan, may exposure ba yung tao para mas nagiging efficient tayo sa pagmamanage natin ng mga kaso. Kasi yung likelihood na meron silang COVID-19 mababa dahil walang exposure.
The agency reminds the public to boost their immune system, like regularly taking vitamins, eating healthy and nutritious food, exercising, and refraining from drinking and smoking, and most of all, to never forget asking God for help, mercy, and protection from the virus. Aiko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for our weather update, severe tropical storm Shawnee slightly intensifies as it moves closer toward Luzon Strait. State Weather Bureau Pagasa says that as of 4 p.m. today, Shawnee was estimated 340 kilometers east of Basco, Batanes, with maximum sustained winds of 100 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 125 kilometers per hour while moving westward at 20 kilometers per hour. Shawnee will continue to move westward or west-northwestward in the next 24 hours. The center of Shawnee will likely make landfall or close approach over the vicinity of Batanes or Babuyan Islands tomorrow morning. After leaving the Philippine area of responsibility tomorrow afternoon or evening, the severe tropical storm is forecast to turn towards the southwest on Saturday morning and accelerate over the West Philippine Sea. Tropical cyclone wind signal number 2 is raised over Batanes and Babuyan Islands, while signal number 1 is raised over the northern portion of mainland Cagayan, the northern portion of Apayao, and the northern portion of Ilocos Norte. Moderate to heavy rains due to Shawnee will begin affecting Batanes and Babuyan Islands tomorrow early morning, while strong breeze to near gale conditions due to the prevailing northeasterlies will also continue over Batanes, Babuyan Islands, the northern portion of Ilocos Norte, and the northern and eastern coastal areas of mainland Cagayan. The Trough of Shawnee and the Intertropical Convergence Zone, or ITCZ, will bring scattered light to moderate with at times heavy rain showers over most parts of central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol region, Visayas, and Mindanao. Meanwhile, Pag-asa is also monitoring a low-pressure area located at 1,770 kilometers east of Visayas. It may enter the PAR tomorrow afternoon or evening and forecast to move generally northwestward towards eastern Visayas or eastern section of southern Luzon area. This LPA is likely to develop into a tropical depression in the next 48 hours. A legal expert says that the act of maltreatment of a Filipino diplomat to her kasambahay is still punishable under the kasambahay law. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Philippines is known for defending domestic workers who are maltreated by their employers abroad. Thus, a legal expert says it was unacceptable what Philippine Ambassador to Brazil Marichu Mauro have done to her kasambahay. Mauro made headlines after she was seen on CCTV footage abusing her Filipina maid.
Ay isipin mo isang kababayan pa ang nanakit sa isang kapwa niya kababayan. Parang hindi po yun kapatapatawa dahil alam nyo ano na lang ang magiging tingin sa atin ng mga nasa ibang bansa.
Under the Republic Act 10361 known as Kasambahay Law, Domestic workers or kasambahays are protected from any kind of abuse, physical violence, or harassment. Kasambahays are also recognized similar to workers in the formal sector with the rights for safe sleeping arrangement, adequate or at least 3 meals a day, right to privacy, among others. They should also be given enough time to rest for at least 8 hours a day with leave benefits and to have social and other benefits such as SSS, PhilHealth contributions. An employer may also give opportunity for his kasambahay to finish basic education and no delay of giving salary.
Number one, i-treat mo ng maayos. Kasama naman yun, kinakailangan ma-treat mo ng maayos, kinakailangan mabigyan mo siya ng tamang sahod, kinakailangan hindi mo siya sasaktan. Basic lang po sa kasambahay lo.
Attorney Garcia further clarifies that even the allegedly maltreatment of Ambassador Mauro to her kasambahay was done outside the country, she will still be held liable under the kasambahay law because the incident happened inside the Philippine Embassy, which is an extension of the country.
And therefore, lahat ng batas nating umiiral dito ay batas na umiiral din sa loob ng embahadang yon, sa kalupaan ng embahada at sa buong building ng embahadang na yan.
The Department of Foreign Affairs had created a panel to investigate the incident. Mauro may face charges including criminal, civil, and administrative case as public official. Violation of the kasambahay law provisions will have penalty from 10,000 pesos to 40,000 pesos or imprisonment of 10 days to 1 month without prejudice to the filing of appropriate civil or criminal charges by the aggrieved party. Dantiamento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, foreign workers from 23 countries, including the Philippines, are still not allowed to enter the country of Malaysia. Maya Barquez will tell us why.
Due to high cases of COVID-19 in Malaysia, entry of foreign workers is still not allowed as the borders remain closed.
Although many of the workers have requested to return to Malaysia to work, they are not allowed to enter the country, especially those coming from the 23 countries with high risk of COVID-19 prevalence. This includes the Philippines. According to Senior Minister Security Cluster Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaqub, foreign workers are not allowed to enter except with prior approval from the Immigration Department.
I would like to explain that our policy to close down our country's border for foreign workers still remains. There are no changes, and we also do not allow foreign workers to enter our country.
He added if their embassy wants to speak with the ministry on this matter, they are welcome. However, the country's borders will remain closed for now. Maya Barquez, UNTV News and Rescue, Malaysia. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, here's Mariela Toza reporting live from Perth, Australia.
Good evening, William. Australia secures 2 more potential COVID-19 vaccines. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom's Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine falls behind its delivery timetable. Marvi Delphine reports why live. Yes, Marvi.
Marielle, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced Australia had reached 2 new deals for COVID-19 vaccines, one with pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and another with the US corporate Novavax. Under the deals, Novavax will provide 40 million vaccine doses and Pfizer BioNTech will supply 10 million vaccine doses. That adds to the 2 prior deals struck with AstraZeneca Oxford and the University of Queensland.
Now today we're announcing an extra $1.5 billion investment in the Novavax and the Pfizer vaccines. This adds to our overall program of over $3.5 billion that we're investing to ensure that Australians will be in the leading pack of the world as we move into the next phase of dealing with COVID-19, which is the vaccine phase.
Both vaccine candidates are currently in their stage 3 clinical trials, and if proven safe and effective, supplies will begin arriving in Australia in early 2021. Prime Minister Morrison also revealed that manufacturing of the first coronavirus vaccine for Aussies will start in Melbourne next week. Meanwhile, over in Europe, AstraZeneca has fallen short of its target to deliver 30 million COVID-19 vaccine doses to UK by the end of September, according to the head of the UK government's vaccine task force, Kate Bingham. But Ms. Bingham reassured that the full 100 million doses would be delivered next year, and AstraZeneca said in a written statement that it was making rapid progress to begin supplying hundreds of millions on a rolling basis once it receives regulatory approval. Over at South America's vaccine situation, on the other hand, more than 300 Brazilians gathered to protest State Governor João Doria's support for mandatory COVID-19 immunization and testing of the potential vaccine developed by China's Sinovac. The protesters rallied in support of President Bolsonaro, with demonstrators holding signs saying, "We are not guinea pigs." A protester said, "We're against the authoritarian Chinese ambassador João Doria, who would now make vaccines compulsory against our wishes." Marielle?
All right, thank you, Marvy, for those updates on COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, the United States of America recorded its highest daily COVID-19 case of more than 100,000, putting the country's cumulative case to more than 9.5 million infections. Earl Briones details why live. Yes, Early.
Marielle, a single-day record of 103,087 new COVID-19 cases have been recorded in the U.S. on Wednesday, based on the data collected by the COVID-19 tracking project as the pandemic worsens in the country heading into its winter season. 34 states have reported more than 1,000 daily COVID-19 cases in the country. Incumbent President Trump has continuously dismissed the threat of COVID-19 and stated that the increasing number of infection is due to the higher number of testings being conducted in the country. However, 52,049 patients remain to be admitted in hospitals across the country, and new deaths of 1,116 have been recorded yesterday. On the other hand, presidential candidate Joe Biden calls for a more strict guideline in opening the business sectors in the country, with guidance from the health ministry, opposite to President Trump's perspective. Meanwhile, as the U.S. continues to hit record high infections, Dr. Anthony Fauci stated that a safe and effective vaccine will be known between the end of November and the beginning of December this year. But then, a more relevant question, according to Dr. Fauci, once there is a safe and effective vaccine available, is how to get it to the people who need it as quick as possible, as he foresees that the amount of doses to be available in December will be insufficient to vaccinate everybody and that the others will have to wait several months in 2021. With almost 9.5 million total coronavirus infections and more than 233,000 deaths, the U.S. has about the highest number of cases and the highest total death toll in the world. Marielle?
Thank you, Earl, live from New South Wales, Australia. Chinese President Xi Jinping allayed fears that the ruling Communist Party's latest development strategy might hamper trade and that China will open wider and become the world's market. President Xi said that plans that call for Chinese industry to go after on self-reliance in technology and focus on domestic markets and suppliers won't only address China's own demand for growth but also bring benefit to those people in all countries. The Chinese president announced that China would import over $22 trillion worth of goods over the next decade. The country would also reduce its catalog of restricted goods and technology imports, but is open to signing to more high-quality trade agreements with its partner countries. China is said to be the only major economy to grow this year after largely bringing the epidemic under control following its emergence in the central city of Wuhan last year. And those are the reasons behind the news here in Australia and in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Maria Latoza, live from Perth, Australia.
A group of engineers in Austin, Texas has developed a technology that could potentially be used in reducing water use in agriculture at a time of growing droughts. Nina Armilio will give the details why.
A new type of soil can pull water from the air and distribute it to plants, according to a team of engineers at the University of Texas at Austin. They say the soil has the potential to expand the map of farmable land around the globe to previously inhospitable places. It can also reduce water use in agriculture at a time of growing droughts. The team's atmospheric water irrigation system uses super moisture absorbent gels to capture water from the air. When the soil is heated to a certain temperature, the gels release the water, making it available to plants. According to Guihua Yu, Associate Professor of Material Science in the Walker Department of Mechanical Engineering at the university, enabling freestanding agriculture in areas where it's hard to establish irrigation and power systems is crucial to liberating crop farming from the complex water supply chain as resources become increasingly scarce. The engineers say that each gram of soil can extract approximately 3 to 4 grams of water. The researchers envision this technology could potentially be used for cooling solar panels and data centers. It could expand access to drinking water, either through individual systems for households or larger systems for big groups such as workers. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, November 5, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.